Happy Monday, everyone. Thanks so much for being here for our first daily devotional of the week. Since we are just a couple of days away from Ash Wednesday, I thought the devotional today should be on the theme that is really hit on during Ash Wednesday. And I want to do that by actually starting with an illustration that I heard, or a story I heard from one of my favorite pastors. He was telling this story about early in his Christian walk, right after he came to know Christ. And he went into his pastor's office and he's having this conversation with his pastor. He walks in and he sits down and he says, "Pastor, I am so unholy. I am so unrighteous. I know that God's doing a work in my life. I know that I love him, but there are just certain things that I know that I'm supposed to be doing and I'm not doing them. And there are other things that I know I'm not supposed to do, and I keep doing this. And Pastor, I'm just so heartbroken. I just can't take it that I am not holy as I need to be. I just can't take it anymore." And the pastor sits and listens to this man go on. And when he finally gets done, the pastor stands up from behind his desk and he walks around to where the man is seated, goes behind him, and he lays his hands on his shoulders and he says, "I pronounce you blessed in the name of the Lord." And then the pastor turns around and walks back and sits back behind his desk. And so at this point, the man's just sitting there confused. And the pastor says, "Son, do you understand what just happened?" And he goes, "No, I don't." And the pastor says, "Have you ever read in Matthew 5 where Jesus said, 'Blessed are those who mourn'?" And this was really the pastor's point that he was trying to make to this young man who was early in his Christian walk. He was saying that Jesus says that we are blessed when we mourn over the sin in our life, when it affects us, when we feel conviction, when we feel a godly sorrow. That's a good thing. That's a good thing that we feel that way, that we're not numb to sin, that we understand that we aren't living the exact way that God desires for us to live. And we don't just accept that, but it actually stirs something inside of us to want more. We want more holiness. We want more righteousness. And we come to God in our brokenness, and in our sin and our unrighteousness, and we confess it to him. He says we are blessed when we do so. This morning, just in my personal reading with the Lord, I just happened to be in Psalm 32. And David, he's talking about sin in his life, and he says this: "When I kept silent, my bones wasted away through my groaning all day long. For day and night your hand was heavy on me. My strength was sapped as in the heat of summer. Then I acknowledged my sin to you and did not cover up my iniquity. I said, I will confess my transgressions to the Lord, and you forgave the guilt of my sin." We live in a culture that is so heavily based off comfort. We don't want to make people feel bad. We don't want to have that feeling of guilt. But Scripture says we are blessed when we acknowledge the fact that we are guilty, when we acknowledge the fact that we have sinned against God, and when we are broken with godly sorrow over it. And the reason we're blessed is because when we have that godly sorrow and we come to God with it, he is faithful and just to forgive us and to cleanse us. And we experience healing in that moment. So I just want to encourage you. I think it's a good thing for all of us to just take some time to think through our lives. What are the areas of sin? What do we need to confess? Let's mourn over those things. Let's be heartbroken over our sin, but let's bring it to God, knowing that we are blessed when we do so because he will forgive us. God bless you. Hope that your week's off to a great start. We look forward to chatting again tomorrow.